Hello to all my dear followers. Today I want to welcome you to the second season of What If Naruto Fell in Love with FEM, Sasuke and Mikoto? Tell me in the comments what future fanfics you'd like to see. I'm reading them. Now then, enjoy.
Chapter 8, Konohagakure, Team 7 Training Grounds. Start. Shino leaped into the forest as soon as Kakashi began the test, eager to get some distance. When he turned to look at the other two, he was a bit surprised they still stood there. Even though they did not make any plans before the test, he would have figured the Uchiha would at least attempt stealth. Well, I guess that would fall right into Kakashi-sensei's plans anyway. Perhaps this will catch him off guard. I have to begin on my work. Bugs began to emerge from Shino's skin as he began his own scheme to get a bell. Kakashi watched as the adhering escaped as soon as the test started, applauding him for using the correct tactic. When the other two did not move, Kakashi knew that things weren't going to go as he planned. The two Uchiha got into their standard offensive pose. Knees bent, one arm out and the other close to the body. So, we will move straight to taijutsu. You two want these bells? Kakashi asked, reaching into his pouch for something. The two Uchiha tensed. He pulled out his Ika book and got to his most recent page of reading. Then he looked up to see them surprised at how laid back he was, expecting him to pull out a weapon. Come and get them, Sasuke growled and launched herself at the jounin, annoyed by his attitude. She would teach him a lesson with a few good punches and kicks. Naruto cursed and ran after her. This wasn't part of their plan. They were going to tag team him and grab the bells while he was distracted, not charge headlong into a fight. This was one of those times he cursed how headstrong Sasuke could be. Kakashi lazily tracked her as she ran at him and ducked under her first punch and caught her low kick aimed at his head. He yanked her leg forward to get her off balance and pulled his free arm back, forming a fist as her body began to fall to the ground. Naruto intercepted him before he could punch the fallen girl, sending a strong kick for his head on Kakashi's blind side. The man threw his book into the air and grabbed Naruto's foot, adjusting his grip to now hold his ankle. Without warning, he flung Naruto through the air and across the grassy field where he quickly recovered and rolled onto his feet. Naruto watched as Sasuke rolled out of harm's way and Kakashi easily caught his book from the air, giving the two a lazy stare. Ninja Tactic Number 1. Taijutsu. Is that all I get from the two famous Uchiha prodigies? Naruto did not react to his jibe and instead reached both hands into his waist pouch. Sasuke growled at Kakashi's remark but realized that while Kakashi had his eyes on Naruto, she could attack him from his flank. Grabbing a kunai from her thigh pouch, she waited for Naruto to launch his attack. The blonde released 10 shuriken at the jounin, much faster than most could hope to avoid. Kakashi used his free hand to collect 2 with his fingers and used them as weapons to deflect the rest away, all the while reading his book. That was when Kakashi saw Sasuke at his side with a kunai, ready to plunge into his abdomen. With a solid kick, he sent her flying backward into a tree. He watched from the corner of his eye as a clone of Naruto caught her and disappeared into a puff of smoke. That was no Academy Jutsu, but a Kage Bunshin? How would he learn that? Thanks, Naruto. Sasuke grunted and picked herself up, rubbing her stomach where the hit had landed. This guy is making a fool of us. We can't hit him with our attacks alone. We have to synchronize. She looked over to Naruto and saw he was equally frustrated, only hiding better than she did. It was as they expected though, they couldn't take him on alone. This was a jounin, an elite ninja with many years of experience in all forms of combat. For genin to have to face one even with a handicap was surely impossible. Uchiha do not get hindered by barriers. We break them. Kakashi was waiting for another attempt for the bells when he heard something and glanced into the treeline. That was enough for the two Uchiha as they escaped into the brush while he was distracted. The teacher ignored them as the sound became louder, a low buzzing sound. It seems the third member of the squad is showing his hand. Adhering, a clan of Konoha shinobi that has its children implanted with special chakra-eating insects from an early age, effectively becoming a human hive. These bugs then can be commanded as the child ages and are incorporated into the adhering fighting style. Your clan isn't known for its ability in the standard shinobi arts, so I wonder how your insects can supplement this. Kakashi announced to the forest where the adhering hid, trying to goad him. I've been curious to see what Shibi taught you, but I had to wait for this moment. Kakashi felt a presence to his left and found the adhering standing there. Wait no longer. Shino sent a solid kick to the Jounin's side but was caught. That was when he dissolved in a mass of bugs. Bunshin. Kakashi slid backwards to avoid the bugs reaching him but realized he was heading straight for the trees. A mass of Kakachu came flooding out into the clearing from behind Kakashi, and he was forced to jump into the air to avoid being touched. A trap! Kakashi was forced to put his book away and go through hand signs as the swarms merged and changed course after him into the sky. Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu. The fireball smashed into the swarm, sending dozens and dozens of burning beetles falling to the ground as Kakashi landed gracefully. That was cutting it a bit close. I guess I can't read Make Out Paradise anymore. He brushed some dirt off of his pants and watched as the swarm receded back into the trees to their master. The Jounin took a moment to track the sounds of the swarm as they retreated. A hand reached into his thigh pouch and grabbed a kunai. The Jounin threw the weapon with a flick of his wrist and smiled as he heard it impact. Shino had his hands in the ram seal, focusing his chakra to recuperate the losses of his beetles as they limped back to him. He sensed the kunai and moved his head a bit. The jutsu that now encased his body in chakra did not allow him to move much or else it would be disrupted. The weapon found purchase in the tree trunk behind Shino, and he let out the breath he had been holding in. It was then a thin cut appeared on his left cheek and the Aburame felt the warm blood trickle down his cheek. Well played, Kakashi-sensei. Until he could recuperate the losses suffered, Shino would have to sit out the fight as long as Kakashi let him. His gut told him though that the Uchiha would not leave their target alone for long, so it would seem he was safe for the moment. Naruto and Sasuke had retreated deeper into the tree-line where they now rested, kneeling beneath a great oak tree. The two had heard a bit of the fight between Shino and Kakashi, the buzzing of hundreds of beetles and the crackling fury of a fire technique. We're outclassed, Naruto said, simply the truth as Sasuke reluctantly nodded. We knew that already though that was just a test of what he could do. Now that we know his reaction time, we can double-team him effectively. Naruto thought about it for a moment. Kakashi wasn't even taking them seriously and he easily stopped their attacks. We can't just beat him with taijutsu, we will have to use our techniques to catch him off guard first. Since we both need to meet him in close quarters, I'll have to use one of my clones for the distraction. Sasuke nodded. That sounded like a good plan. That battle is already over with Shino. He will be after us next. As soon as she said that, both looked up and saw Kakashi kneeling on a branch, waving at them. Hey there! A fireball from Naruto was his hello and he was forced to leap back from the branch and out into the clearing. His eyes widened at the boy's ability. He knew that being able to harness nature-enhanced chakra at his level was amazing. Most genin don't even know what their affinity is. Naruto has done some growing. Sasuke followed him out and threw shuriken at him while he was still in midair. Kakashi reached for his kunai and deflected them easily, but saw that Sasuke had stopped chasing after him. What are they? That was when he saw Naruto emerge from behind Sasuke and throw a kunai past Kakashi as he began to slide along dirt in a haphazard landing. He looked over his shoulder and saw the weapon shred a taut rope and realized it was another trap. From behind him came more shuriken, but he saw Sasuke was in the line of fire too. This oughta shake their plan up. Kakashi slid out of the way and watched as the kunai headed straight for Naruto and Sasuke, at least before they both disappeared into smoke. Kakashi's eyes widened as another Naruto came at him from the front, emerging from the tree-line that wrapped around their small arena. Clones! Naruto launched his fist right at Kakashi's head but was caught by the Jounin's fist. Using that as leverage, he brought up a leg to kick Kakashi but had that caught. Naruto flipped upside down thanks to Kakashi's hold and reached for a bell, touching it with his finger. The Jounin's eyes widened and he pushed back, knowing that it was too risky to stay in close combat with Naruto. That kid! Sasuke took that moment as the Jounin was in motion backward to appear behind him and tapped his back before he could push her away. Sasuke rolled away into the forest and Naruto went through hand signs, preparing an attack. Kakashi heard the fizzing much before he felt the heat of an igniting explosive tag on his back, forcing him to quickly remove the jacket. With the bomb now about to go off, He threw it at the genin while the blonde was still preparing his attack. Just as Naruto brought a hand to his mouth to form the jutsu, the jacket exploded and sent him flying back in a heap. Kakashi had now broken a sweat and was breathing heavily. His eyes darted back and forth, waiting for the next attack. These two were no longer playing with him, and unfortunately he followed them to their home turf. Luckily, it seemed that they were out of tricks as Sasuke ran out of the forest and picked Naruto up before they both jumped back into the safety of the treeline. This gave the jounin a chance to take a breather in the brief respite the genin in his squad were giving him. Ninja Tactic Number 2. Ninjutsu. Neither of you are lacking in that ability, it would seem, Kakashi said to himself as he reluctantly gave them praise. But how well can they see through a genjutsu? Time to split these two up. Kakashi leaped into the forest and went through a few hand signs before creating his simple illusion on the area. Not something Kurenai would be proud of, but it should suffice for these two. Sasuke held up the bell in triumph. They had gotten what they wanted. When Kakashi pushed her away, she was easily able to snag the bell from him without even noticing. They didn't expect him to throw the jacket back at Naruto, but luckily he wasn't hurt at all. Naruto, we did dash. Sasuke looked at him and smiled, but froze up when she saw it wasn't Naruto but Kakashi standing with her. His curious eyes that glanced over her and the bell infuriated her with how he liked to play games with them. She sent him a straight kick that was caught and then another that forced him to slide back. Quickly placing the bell in her pocket, she looked back at Kakashi to see him annoyed. I don't have all day. Her teacher ran at her and sent a flurry of punches for her. Each time she was only able to narrowly avoid the attack. She knelt down and swung her leg out to trip him, but he jumped and kicked her in the side of the head, sending her flying back into a bush. Sasuke held the side of her head as the throbbing pain did not die down. That kick was not the same strength he had been using before. No matter, he would fall soon enough. She began going through hand signs just as Kakashi did the same. Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu. Both fireballs hit each other right in the middle of the forest, lighting both grass and bark on fire as the jutsu destroyed one another. It was then that Sasuke noticed something odd. Kakashi settled back into an offensive stance that she and Naruto used. It was a variant of their mother's teachings on the Uchiha fighting styles they learned about as children, and only they knew how to use it correctly. Kakashi looked quite comfortable in it though, as if he had been using it for many years. Wait a minute. This isn't real. Sasuke brought both hands up and formed the ram hand sign, disrupting her chakra for a moment to stop the illusion. Kai! She opened her eyes and saw Naruto in place of Kakashi, still under the illusion. Sasuke ran up to him and avoided his punch, tapping his forehead with 2 fingers and disrupting his flow of chakra as well. As they were both free from the genjutsu, Naruto looked and saw Sasuke instead of Kakashi, whom he had been fighting since they escaped. He had landed a solid kick on him and then their jutsu met. Then he touched his forehead and now Sasuke was there. Wait. There is a red mark on Sasuke's cheek. It was right where he had kicked Kakashi. That was me. Kakashi placed us under a genjutsu Naruto and made us see each other as him. Naruto panicked and ran over to her, looking over her quickly forming bruise. I am sorry, Sasuke. I didn't know. Are you all right? She felt his hand tenderly rub her cheek and she grabbed hold of it and smiled. I'm all right, although it's a good thing I realized it was a genjutsu or else you might have done some serious damage. You can really hit hard, Naruto-kun. Naruto watched as she played it off with a smile but winced in pain and he was not convinced. Before he could press the subject, Shino appeared next to them. They quickly went on their guard at his sudden appearance but relaxed when they noticed the swarm of beetles around him. Even if Kakashi took Shino's appearance, he couldn't replicate the insects the boy held inside of him. Shino, what are you doing here? Naruto asked, surprised to see him since it seemed like he didn't want anything to do with their plan. I've come to join forces with you. It's obvious we can't beat him alone. Sasuke smirked and held up their prize to Shino, who just looked at the bell without any reaction. We've already gotten 1 bell. Now we just need to get another. What makes you think we want your help? Shino glanced between the two and noticed they weren't in the best of shape. Dirt, cuts and scrapes littered their bodies and Sasuke had a nasty bruise forming. It looks like you used all the tricks in your book to get that bell. Kakashi will adapt and he will win. Why? Because he is a jounin with years of experience while we have none. Naruto and Sasuke looked at each other and knew Shino was right. They weren't really prepared to take him on again. The next attack we launch at him has to be the last one, and it's got to get us the second bell. Sasuke and Naruto agreed with Shino's analysis. I think you're still a wild card, Shino. He may not know you're with us, and he still doesn't know your clan jutsu very well. We can use that to our advantage. Naruto explained to the group as they discussed tactics. Yeah, I hate to admit it, but even though we could get the bell from Kakashi, it seemed he was pretty well versed in Uchiha training. He was able to counter our taijutsu easily enough and knew our jutsu too. That means he must have some background with our clan we don't know about, and that annoys me. Sasuke said with a bit of annoyance in her voice at the last part. As I said, Sasuke, I'll be the ace in the hole for this operation. I'll get the bell and recover it from Kakashi. You two just have to keep him distracted long enough for me and the Kakachu to do the work. Naruto and Sasuke looked at each other and started prepping themselves with a light stretch. Easier said than done. I've got a feeling this is going to be the toughest part of the exercise yet. Kakashi's on to us. We're lucky he hasn't already come here. Shino glanced to their left for a moment and then turned back to them in a robotic fashion. I have my insects covering us in a wide perimeter, and it would seem Kakashi is on his way to us. I'll take cover and start my preparations. Good luck. Before they could say anything else, Shino dissolved into bugs and the Uchiha were left holding the bag. Well, that was Uchiha. Naruto looked over at Sasuke to see her in a fit of anger. That guy took our bell. Where does he get off? I think you'll have to worry about me before you take off on your own teammate, Sasuke-chan. They followed the voice and saw Kakashi thunder into their hiding place. Now, what did you do with my bell? The two Uchiha looked at one another before simultaneously charging the jounin. It wasn't a great plan they had, but it was a plan that had to work. Konoha Uchiha compound. Mikoto finished with her household work, finishing up the last of the laundry. She wiped a bit of perspiration from her brow as Konoha's usual heat was becoming unbearable in the house. It became apparent that she would have to go out soon, at the very least to keep herself moving. The honest truth was she was very nervous for her children as their test was going on right now. She wouldn't know the result until they came home and she was hoping for the best. I just have to have confidence in them. Mikoto headed upstairs and entered Naruto's room to look once again at the scroll he had made of all the kenjutsu of Konoha. While she was hesitant to use it often, even she knew that it would just go to waste if they didn't take advantage of it. Naruto was able to learn the Kage Bunshin jutsu relatively quickly, no doubt in thanks to the jutsu being tailored to his abilities. Sasuke also learned well from Mikoto yesterday and mastered the Katan jutsu she taught, albeit it was a relatively simple technique. Now it's my turn to learn something. She mumbled to herself as she began to look through the jutsu, many of which were either out of her league or would take too long to learn. Much of what was written seemed to be focused on major techniques developed by the Nidaime like his Jikuken and Tensei Kenjutsu. Something of that scale was not what Mikoto wanted to learn, so she hoped there would be something on a more simpler scale. This looks interesting. It's a powerful Katan technique the third Hokage wrote in. Apparently he developed it himself during his prime. Mikoto read on, getting interested. As most Uchiha were born with the fire chakra affinity, picking up on higher-level jutsu was an easy task for them. Something like a jutsu made by a Hokage was definitely something that would pique their interest. Katan Karyuenden, a technique developed by the Sandaime during the throes of the Third Shinobi World War. The user crafts the white-hot flames and fires it from their mouth like a dragon. It is incredibly difficult to maintain the heat and constant flow of fire from one's mouth, and because of the chakra usage, only a few shinobi could be capable of mastering the technique. A few shinobi, Maybe they didn't consider the Uchiha when they wrote this. Mikoto read over the hand signs and then placed the scroll back inside the drawer of Naruto's desk. It was time for training as she headed back downstairs and went to her room for her clothing. As Mikoto took off her apron, her eyes shifted to her bedside. There, on the nightstand lay a picture of her and Fugaku when they were first married. No matter the reason for the marriage, Mikoto still gave a smile for the picture. Her husband, on the other hand, gave his usual no-nonsense look for the cameraman. A bout of sadness washed over her as she remembered her husband and his untimely passing. No matter how much Mikoto told herself that he was gone, and their feelings were not true love. She could not help but cry for her husband's death. She did miss him even if she would never admit it to anyone. Fugaku, I am sorry that I could not die with you, but perhaps it was meant to be this way. A sad smile crossed her lips as tears began to flow. With this, I can take care of Sasuke and Naruto and make sure they can be happy. Then Fugaku. Then maybe I will join you. Mikoto quickly dressed in her shinobi outfit and left her room, and past memories behind. To preserve her family's future, she would have to get stronger, and that meant keeping her skills sharp. Luckily, the Uchiha compound had its very own training yard that would suit this purpose wonderfully. As Mikoto exited the house, she saw the results of her daughter's training yesterday. Shuriken and kunai lay haphazardly on the ground and scorch marks marked the dirt. While the grounds were a bit roughed up, the training had been successful, and Mikoto hoped for a similar outcome as she too began to train in a new technique. Activating her Sharingan, Mikoto began to weave hand signs for a long afternoon of training in the Konoha heat. Mikoto sat on the steps leading into her home from the backyard training, still taking in the occasional deep breath from the aftermath of her training. The grounds were soot-stained, and much of the grass had long burned away with a relative success as far as learning the technique. With just a few more days of training, Mikoto felt confident that she would have the jutsu down to a simple science with minimal chakra usage. It was right about the sheer difficulty of controlling the flames, but the increased strength over normal katan jutsu is a welcome trade. It's taken me about a half an hour to recover from the use of it, just a few dozen times though, so it isn't something I can take lightly. The jutsu indeed took a toll on her stamina, but Mikoto felt like she still had the energy to head out and run her daily errands. Standing up for the first time in a while, Mikoto walked through her home and grabbed a few hundred Ryo coins and put them in her pocket. Wearing a purse in her shinobi uniform would feel odd, so she decided to just take what she needed. Mikoto exited her home and quickly opened and closed the inner compound gate, leading her to the main Uchiha residential area. It was here that the majority of the Uchiha lived before the massacre, living in relative isolation with the compound walls keeping the outside world from seeing in and vice versa. Mikoto didn't like walking through here, as the only thing left were living ghosts. Memories of the people that lived here would pop up uncontrollably in her mind as she walked past their old home or business. She wanted to let out a sigh of relief when she finally reached the outer gate and left the compound behind for Konoha's main commercial district. As she was exiting her home though, she felt a presence watching her and turned to look at a nearby park that sat outside the compound. Mikoto kept her eyes trained on it for a moment before shrugging and walking off, blaming it on nerves. As she left, a tree branch rustled in the park she had been suspicious of. It seemed it wasn't just her nerves that were out to get the Uchiha matriarch. Kanahagakure, Yamanaka Flower Shop. Mikoto entered the flower shop to see it being manned by her friend from the academy, Aini Yamanaka. Married to the clan head Inoichi Yamanaka, the two girls could draw some parallels between themselves and became great friends during their years after the academy. Mikoto had been somewhat jealous of her friend though, as Fugaku did not have such a tender interior as Inoichi did. Now, she thought regretfully, they only saw each other when Mikoto came to the shop for a very specific purpose. Ah, Mikoto-san, it's good to see you again. Is it the usual? Mikoto gave her a sheepish smile and nod as the strawberry blonde woman went into the back for her order. She emerged with dozens of white lilies, each with their own stem still intact. Mikoto graciously took the large bundle and paid up front with the money she brought along. Thank you, Ayane-san. Is your daughter taking her genin test today as well? Annie twirled her long hair around her finger as she smiled, nodding. Yes, Ino-chan is with the Nara and Akimichi boys. I'm sure they will pass with flying colors. Same goes for your two children. You know how easy those tests can be. Mikoto wasn't so sure she would say the same if she knew Kakashi very well, but nodded anyway. Yes, I'm sure we will be seeing a lot less of our children now. Even though they will be doing the D ranks, I'm glad that means they will be staying near Konoha. Another benefit for peacetime is keeping our children out of harm's way. Annie nodded and saw Mikoto was making her way to leave, eager to get the unpleasant task ahead of her done with no doubt. Mikoto-san, please pay my respects for you clansmen as well. The matriarch looked over her shoulder and nodded before leaving. Poor woman, having such a burden placed on her so soon. I hope she finds herself a nice man to take care of her. That Fugaku was just not right for her at all. Kanahagakure Cemetery. As soon as Mikoto arrived, she went straight for the Uchiha section reserved exclusively for her clan. Before the massacre, the area had been sparingly used and housed only the eldest of the Uchiha since the founding of Konoha. After the massacre, it seemed as if the entire area labeled for Uchiha was used up and it was forced to be expanded earlier than expected. The Konoha Council at least allowed each grave to be adorned with the Konoha leaf and labeled with the decorations the man or woman earned in life along with the Uchiha crest. Mikoto had been fearful they would not allow it because of the reason they were killed, but it seemed someone had gotten through to them. For space concerns, children were buried within the same area as their parents and did not receive their own gravestones. Nonetheless, Mikoto had memorized each and every headstone in the 6 years she had been visiting and placing flowers. She would place the flower right on the Konoha leaf symbol and say a few words in prayer for each clansman or clanswoman. By the time she reached Fugaku, the memories of her friends and close family had already brought her close to tears that her husband's gravestone was always the one that made her cave in. Fugaku! She sniffled and placed the flower on the stone, getting on her knees for a short prayer and words. Please forgive me for not following you, dear husband. I must continue to live and stay strong for our daughter and my new son. So please wait for me until my time is done too. Mikoto stayed for a little while longer before taking her leave. There was still one last stop before she could go home. Kanahagakure Naka Shrine. Within the Konoha Naka Shrine, the Uchiha matriarch said her final prayers for her fallen clansmen. It was also here she was reminded of the Uchiha's greatest failure, which would hopefully keep them from falling again. It was within this shrine where the Uchiha had their own secret room, a place of many secrets and crafted conspiracies that eventually led to their persecution and death. Mikoto walked over to the specific mat that hid the entranceway and felt the surface for a moment, thinking about what events that transpired there led the Uchiha to ruin. She quickly moved away and made her way to leave as she did not want to think about such things. The Uchiha were a changed clan and they would not walk that path again as long as she was around. With nothing else to do, Mikoto made her way for home. It was then that her thoughts drifted back to her 2 children and she wondered how they were doing. She would have to prepare a nice dinner for them, either to celebrate or to comfort. Kanahagakure Training Grounds. Kakashi avoided another attack launched by Naruto and jumped out of the forest and into the clearing. Sasuke came onto his flank again, and he twisted to avoid her kick, pushing her away with the palm of his hand. The two had been on him as soon as he arrived, and it seemed they were onto his presence. He wasn't sure how they would be able to know his location, though, as neither were sensors nor did they have the potential to be them. Did they team up with Shino? I haven't seen him around. 3 Narutos emerged from the forest and charged him from the front, forcing him to focus on the battle and not his thoughts. The 2 clones ran around to his sides to hit his flank while what he guessed to be the real one ran at him from the front. A sound strategy if he was taking on someone of a lower caliber. Kakashi allowed the 2 clones to run for his sides while he instead dashed forward and elbowed Naruto in the gut, sending him flying back. Kakashi sighed at the predictability before seeing the smoke indicating it was a clone, making his eyes widen. He turned around and intercepted a kick that was sent for his head by one Naruto while the other was sending his fist right for his abdomen. The Naruto he caught was sent flying behind him as he threw him over his shoulder, and the other one was taken down as Kakashi grabbed his shoulders and sent him to the ground. Sasuke growled and charged back into the fray as the real Naruto was the one Kakashi sent to the ground and was now sitting on top of. Before she could get too close, Kakashi took out a kunai and put it at Naruto's throat, stopping her advance cold. Sasuke, if you don't want Naruto to die, kill Shino. The 2 Uchiha's eyes widened and Naruto began to struggle even harder to escape as Sasuke glared at the man. How dare you dash? Kakashi shifted, so that his knee was right on top of Naruto's neck, making it difficult for him to breathe or move. This is what happens during a mission, an impossible choice when someone gets captured. With your current tactics, you are bound to encounter this situation and you won't know what to do. You've totally missed the entire point of this exercise. Kakashi's annoyed voice reached all 3 genin's ears, and he continued as if he expected this outcome from the 3. Teamwork. If all 3 of you had come at me, you might have gotten a bell. Instead, You two. Kakashi pointed at Sasuke and grabbed Naruto's hair, indicating the Uchiha. Came at me as if the only thing that mattered was the Uchiha passing this test, and you succeeded in getting a bell. As soon as you had that, you just kept coming at me for the bell and ignored Shino while he was forced to fight me at a disadvantage without teammates. Sasuke was beginning to shake in anger at how he was holding Naruto and was just about ready to charge him again. How dare he touch Naruto-kun like that? He has no right to, and this is why you failed. You were consumed with yourselves that you forgot. Kakashi quieted down as Shino emerged from the forest and leaned over to pick something up from the ground. All three pairs of eyes locked on and saw it was the last bell. Excuse me, sensei, but I think you were mistaken. You fell right into our trap. Thanks to Naruto and Sasuke, I was able to accomplish the objective and take the last bell. Maybe you should rethink lecturing us and instead try congratulating us. Shino's analytical voice carried over the dead silence as he explained the outcome for the totally surprised teacher, and it almost seemed like he was making fun of him. But how? Kakashi asked, surprised. Shino adjusted his shades and held both bells up as he recounted his strategy. I met up with the Uchiha shortly after they dispelled that genjutsu you placed over them. After we worked out a plan where they would distract you and I would get the last bell, my insects detected you through the perimeter I set up. While you are quite capable of detecting my insects in large swarms, a few easily missed your attention as you ran past and they latched onto your clothing. Kakashi began to catch on and got up from Naruto, allowing him to walk back over to Sasuke and Shino. While they distracted you with taijutsu, my insects were cutting through the rope attached to the bell and allowed it to fall to the ground. You were so focused on these two you forgot about me and my insects, allowing me to recover the objective before you had time to realize what had happened. A simple tactic that required no fighting to get the objective away from its guard, something that only Shino was capable of in the squad. That was a very delicate maneuvering of the bugs. I'm impressed. I suppose I underestimated your affinity for teamwork and figured you would instead ignore one another to get a bell. Naruto had to admit Kakashi wasn't far from the truth. If it hadn't been for Shino, that probably would have happened. Shino was our voice of reason during the exercise. If it wasn't for him, we probably wouldn't have worked together in the end. Thanks to his tactics, I think it made both Sasuke and I want to work with him to succeed, and it was that drive that let us beat you together. Kakashi watched as both the figurative and literal distance between teammates disappeared as Shino and Sasuke stood next to Naruto in silent agreement. Well then, I guess this means that you actually succeeded in the exercise and used teamwork to accomplish your objective. Kakashi smiled. It seemed he was proven wrong for the first time. Surprisingly, he didn't feel bad about it at all. Team 7. You pass. Konohagakure, Uchiha compound. Welcome home, you two. Mikoto greeted her children as they returned at early evening from their training exercise. Hello, Ka-san, Naruto said, and then he waited until the shriek came over the house when she saw Sasuke's bruise. What happened to you? Did Kakashi do this? Mikoto was already planning ways to kill the jounin as her daughter just held the side of her head with the bruise. When it looked like Naruto was going to tell her what really happened, Sasuke glared and quieted him down. It was better that she be mad at Kakashi because it was his fault anyway. Besides, it was funnier this way as well. Ka-san, stop it. I'm fine. Kakashi just got a good kick in. I got him back for it. Mikoto didn't seem convinced but knew that Sasuke wouldn't want her worrying about it. All right, but I'm going to clean you up tonight and no buts missy. Sasuke sighed and Naruto stifled a snicker and Mikoto turned her attention to him. And how is my son? Did you get hurt anywhere? Naruto just shook his head even though Mikoto saw the cuts and scrapes and probably bruises under his shirt. We'll see. Now how did it go? Did you pass? The two Uchiha looked at one another before smiling at their mom, giving her permission to sigh in relief. We passed. Mikoto smiled and brought them in for a group hug as she bent down to their height. I knew you could do it. I'm cooking a big dinner in celebration. Sasuke and Naruto just looked at each other and smiled. Same old Ka-san. Did you get along with your teammate? They nodded. Even Sasuke was starting to warm up to him. Yeah. If it wasn't for Shino, we wouldn't have passed. Bug Boy came through in the end. Even if we did the most work. Mikoto liked the sound of that. It seemed they would get along with the adhering after all. That was something she was very worried about. Well, you will have to invite him over sometime so I can meet him. It's been a while since I've seen any of the adhering. Now come on, let's eat. They followed her inside, ready to celebrate and rest before they start their lives as ninja. Kanahagakure, adhering compound. Shino entered his home in the middle of a large safari of insects on the outskirts of Konoha. The adhering made their home right in the middle of this area but kept their homes and infrastructure simple so as to not disturb the insects. The first person to greet him was his mother, now adhering. While the women of the adhering were rarely seen around the village, they did indeed exist. The reason their appearance was rarely seen outside of the compound was because the women were in charge of taking care of the Kikeichu hives within the compound's underground area. It was within this area where they categorized insects, handled larvae, and effectively kept the supply of Kikeichu bugs high for adhering use. As the clan's primary entomologists and breeders, they were kept very busy and could not be found outside unless it was special circumstances such as an invasion or standing order for all adhering to show. His mother had long maroon hair that she kept tied up in a bun, while the rest of her face was covered by the usual dark shades and high-collar overcoat akin to the adhering. While both women and men shared the same quiet, analytical traits, his mother still showed Shino the most affection through physical interaction and words, while his father did it more through actions. Shino, welcome home. Shino took off his sandals and walked up to his mother and nodded at her welcome. Mother. She opened her arms and Shino knew what she wanted, as she did every time he returned home. He entered her gentle embrace. Did things go well during the training exercise and the Uchiha? Now asked as she knew her husband and son were not very confident in how the Uchiha would behave. Things went better than I expected. We passed thanks to some last-minute teamwork. Shino explained and his mother accepted it, knowing that Shibi would just be anxious to hear about well he performed. And how did your Kikeichu do? They didn't give you any trouble during real combat, did they? As if to respond, a few beetles emerged from his sleeves and chattered. Beetles emerged from Nao's hands and responded. They did fine, mother, as I'm sure you could tell. Adhering parents shared with their child the same hive of Kikeichu, giving their beetles similar pheromones to identify one another, which allowed for better tracking and easier synchronization with jutsu between parent and child. Yes, well, I ask because you know your father will be curious. Shino nodded and followed his mother inside, silently glad to be home. No matter what the village thought of the adhering on the exterior, Shino knew he was human just like the rest of them. Even with his quiet exterior, the same feeling of warmth one got when they were with their mother emanated from Shino's heart. He wondered if, in the future, he could see the Uchiha as family too. 2 weeks later, Ninja Academy, mission assignment. After 2 weeks of grueling D-rank missions, Sasuke and Naruto had had enough of the easy work. Their talents were being wasted on picking weeds, helping with laundry, or trying to find lost pets. That might have been fine for the rest of the genin teams, but for the Uchiha, it was a disgrace. So that was why, on their latest trip to pick up a mission, they decided to ask the Hokage themselves. Welcome Team 7. We have prepared your list of D-rank missions for today. The Hokage welcomed the squad as they entered and wasn't surprised to see Sasuke and Naruto get annoyed. We are tired of these useless D-ranks. They are wasting our time and abilities. Give us a real mission where we can actually get some experience. Sasuke said in an annoyed tone. Irika stood up to reprimand them. You are just barely graduated ninja from the academy. You aren't ready for combat yet. That's why we give you D-ranks to gather experience. Naruto stood next to his sister and folded his arms in defiance. Experience in gardening? Irika growled at the jibe, but the Hokage motioned for him to sit back down. Hey, Naruto-Kakashi was going to calm him down when the Hokage made to speak. Genin are delegated D-rank missions while Chunin and Jounin handle the higher tiers because of their difficulty. You understand this, I'm sure. However, I do agree that your squad is unique in its potential. Sasuke and Naruto looked at one another while Shino and Kakashi just waited. I will give you a C-rank mission that just came in today to see if you really do have the skills needed to take the next step up. It's an escort mission to the Land of Waves. Naruto and Sasuke looked at each other and smirked in victory. Finally, they were getting somewhere. Where is this person? Shino asked and the Hokage responded in kind. You can come in now. They all turned to view the door as it slowly slid open, revealing a drunken old man as he fumbled through the doorway. This is my escort? It's just a bunch of kids. Sasuke lost her smile but just remembered it was better to wait rather than get angry. I assure you that all three of them are trained ninja, and I'm their teacher, so I'll be tagging along too. After seeing Kakashi, Tazuna seemed to be comforted. Humph. Well, my name's Tazuna, the famous bridge builder of Wave. You'll be taking me back home and protecting me while I finish my bridge to the mainland. With the circumstances, none of them could complain as long as it was something new. Squad 7, you are dismissed, the Hokage said as they prepared to bring in the next team for their mission. Kakashi gathered them together and sent them home to prepare their essentials and say goodbye to their families while he took Tazuna to the East Gate. Things were finally getting interesting with Team 7, but would they be ready to face the dangers of Wave? Chapter 9, Konohagakure, East Gate. Kakashi observed as his squad converged on the gate, after having been sent home to gather the necessary equipment for a long trip. This was also their chance to say goodbye to family as they would not see each other for a while. Tazuna waited impatiently at the gate, tapping his foot on the dirt and taking the occasional swig of his cheap ale. The jounin sighed. This trip would most definitely be a long one. Oi! Are you sure these kids are cut out to be ninja? They look pretty puny to me. Tazuna spouted as Naruto and the others gathered to stand near Kakashi. Sasuke eyed the old man with annoyance while Shino and Naruto feigned indifference. Kakashi scratched the back of his head and patted Sasuke in an attempt to ease her. They are all qualified, I assure you. These three are also the prodigies of their clans here in Konoha, 2 Uchiha and 1 adhering. Tazuna looked them over again and shrugged. Whatever, the names don't mean anything to me. Just as long as they can do their job. Sasuke growled but got poked in the side by Naruto. He just shook his head and began to follow Kakashi and Tazuna as they left the village. Shino quickly brought up the rear as the five began to travel along the dirt road on their long trip to Wave. The silence became unnerving for a while as Tazuna seemed to have his thoughts elsewhere and Kakashi was trying to enjoy the stroll. Naruto and Sasuke had been walking close together but had little to say, as nothing much had happened. The blonde's thoughts drifted back to Mikoto, and a wave of regret washed over him. When they told her of their mission to Wave, she was very happy and helped them prepare. But Naruto saw a moment of sadness, loneliness impact their mother at first. Ka-san was sad to see us go, even if it's a mission. Now I miss her too. Sasuke saw the blonde's sad face and elbowed him in the ribs, jolting him awake. To Naruto's annoyed face, she gave a playful smirk and kissed him on the cheek. Don't worry so much, Naruto-kun. We will be done with this mission fast and be back home to see Ka-san. Naruto was surprised she knew why he was sad. Am I that easy to read? She just stuck her tongue out in play before looking at the sky. For now, just try and enjoy the trip. It's our first time outside the village, you know? Naruto nodded. That was true. You're right, Sasuke. I guess I'm just thinking too much. Shino advanced from the rear of the group to match Kakashi's speed. The jounin noticed his presence and looked down at him in curiosity. Something wrong, Shino? The bug user looked at his sensei before asking his question. Tazuna-san is from Wave, correct? Tazuna grumbled in recognition. Yeah, what's it to you, kid? Shino ignored him instead for Kakashi. Wave has no ninja, is that correct, sensei? Kakashi hummed in approval and looked in the sky. That's correct, Wave has no ninja. Because they are on an island and isolated from the rest of the world, they don't require ninja to defend them from another country's influence. On the flip side of that though, when trouble hits, they must hire ninja from another nation like Fire Country's Konoha. The three genin took the information in from their sensei's lesson and Tazuna remained quiet. Because this is a C-rank mission, we will only have to deal with a highwayman or bandits. Were you worried about foreign shinobi, Shino? The adhering remained quiet and began to fall back behind Kakashi. No, but I like to be prepared. Tazuna's eyes flickered to Kakashi and then back to the ground. Naruto noticed the man seemed to be nervous about something but passed it off from disinterest. Sasuke continued to walk alongside him, albeit with little vigor, with her hands in her pockets and head to the sky. The group continued to walk along the dirt paths, the sun beating down on the ninjas' unprotected heads. It had been sunny nonstop, and one could feel the heat waves roil off the ground. Tazuna wiped some sweat from his brow as the ninja continued on, unaffected by the heat for the most part. Shino would occasionally send a few bugs out ahead of the group or to their flanks to check for anything, but each time the bugs would come quietly back with nothing to report. The adhering did not enjoy the quiet of the mission so far, and even though he knew the mission wasn't designed to be fraught with danger, his father taught him to always look past face value and be prepared for anything. That was why he was sending his bugs out, from his own nervousness. Kakashi could sense the bug user's unease, but felt that as the mission progressed, Shino would calm down. The worrying would wear on him if he allowed it to continue, and it wasn't healthy for a young ninja, no matter how difficult the mission was. A ninja would learn to face each challenge with calm, so they could think clearly and counter any situation. With the two Uchiha, Naruto was passing his time by speaking with Kyubi, while Sasuke merely tried to enjoy the breeze of the walk. Kyubi, how much longer do you think it would be wise to keep the Sharingan a secret from Sasuke? The beast hummed in thought before answering. Keep it secret for as long as you can, boy, for once others find out, it will not be a secret any longer. You will forever be known as a Sharingan user, respected and feared throughout the ninja world. Naruto wondered whether that would be a good thing or bad. I guess you're right, and if I'm strong enough, I can keep it a secret longer by making sure my opponent can't tell anyone about it. Kyubi growled in approval. The boy was learning. Yes, Naruto, if you kill your opponent, then no one can tell the tale of your abilities. If you want to make a name for yourself, though, you will have to leave a few alive. Haha! Kyubi's evil cackle filled Naruto's mind and echoed around within. Naruto was so deep in thought, he didn't even notice he almost walked in a puddle of water. Kyubi's chuckle abruptly ended as he sensed a foreign and threatening chakra nearby. Kakashi sent a lazy glance toward the water but gave no other hint of alarm. Shino's bugs began to chatter as they sensed chakra their master hadn't declared as off-limits. When the group passed, the puddle let loose a single ripple as two shinobi slowly rose from within. They had been waiting for the group to walk by for a while now, having ran ahead of them after following them from the Leaf Village. It was time to begin their mission given to them by Zabuza, kill the bridge builder. We'll take the Jounin down first, Meizu said with hidden glee. His brother Gozu, who hung from his back, nodded. Right behind you. Meizu broke into a sprint, followed by Gozu detaching from his back and running parallel. Shino stood motionless as the two passed him, their chain just barely going over his head. Kakashi was taken by surprise as the chains dug into his skin, and he forced a garbled cry. Naruto, Sasuke, and Tazuna turned to see the mane surrounded by chains with two unknown assailants at his sides. Pull! The chains suddenly tightened and ripped Kakashi into pieces, taking the group by surprise. Kakashi-sensei! Naruto shouted in shock, bringing the two assassins' attention to him. One down. Within a moment, both Kirinin were next to Naruto, who widened his eyes in surprise. They brought their gauntlet chains up for another attack. Two down. Sasuke leaped into action and pulled out a shuriken and kunai, first throwing the shuriken which impaled the chain to the tree. She jumped into the air and threw her kunai with strength, impaling it through the shuriken to hold the chain in the wood. The two brothers tried, in vain, to pull the chain free. It won't get loose. With their attention off Naruto, it was his turn to get into the fight. Naruto brought his arms into his chest and then sent his elbows out, crushing the two's cheeks and pushing them away from him. The brothers quickly recovered and glared at Naruto, realizing that they were up against opponents of a higher caliber than normal genin. Cutting their losses, they dropped the chain and headed for Tazuna in a last-ditch attempt to kill him. Sasuke glared at them and took out a kunai, ready to defend him. How insolent! Daring to fight an Uchiha? Stay behind me! Tazuna could only cower as the two ran at him, hoping Sasuke would be enough. Meizu was coming up on Sasuke's left when he tripped on something on the ground. He looked down in annoyance only to find hundreds of bugs beginning to crawl up his body and Shino standing above him. One down. He mocked as Meizu screamed in terror as the bugs began to eat his chakra and envelope his body. Gozu hesitated only a moment when his brother screamed, risking a glance toward him as he ran forward. that gave Naruto ample time to appear in front of him with a kunai poised to strike. He would not allow the assassin to get anywhere near Sasuke or Tazuna. The Kirinin looked into the blonde's eyes and saw only red. His eyes widened upon realization the boy was an Uchiha as his Sharingan world. Impossible! The Uchiha clan was wiped out. How does this boy dash? He was cut off as Naruto plunged his kunai deep inside the man's chest, forcing him to grunt in pain. The inertia forced Gozu backward with Naruto on top of him, still holding onto the bloody kunai. He immediately brought the genjutsu back up to hide his eyes as Gozu fell unconscious, wary of anyone seeing it. Naruto got up from the man's body and returned to Sasuke's side, where she and Tazuna stood in shock. Kakashi appeared in front of the genin and looked down at Meizu, who was just now getting released by the bugs. He was unconscious. The jounin quickly moved to Gozu and removed the kunai, casting it away as blood began to slowly pour out from the man's abdomen. He glanced at Naruto and the wound. Naruto, you did well defending Tazuna and your teammate with the willingness to kill your opponent. Naruto wasn't proud of his lethal attack and kept a straight face at the praise. But don't limit yourself to only lethal moves. An unconscious opponent is as harmless as a dead one. Sometimes an enemy can be more useful alive than dead. Kakashi ripped open Gozu's garments and began to provide basic medical treatment to stabilize him. That piece of advice struck a chord in Naruto, as he had gone into the attack with Kyuubi encouraging him to kill. It seemed like the logical thing to do too, since he was threatening Sasuke and Tazuna, but now his sensei was telling him there was another option. Yes, sensei, Naruto said quietly as the man continued to work on the downed enemy. Sasuke just continued to stare at her brother, in awe of his ability. Maybe the blush was from envy as well as admiration, but she couldn't deny how amazed she was. With speed even she couldn't follow, Naruto had intercepted Gozu, dodged his claw, and was able to down him in one hit. All the while doing it to protect her. Now that was something few girls could boast. That was amazing, Naruto. The blonde looked at her and gave a hesitant smile, scratching the back of his head. I just acted on instinct, Sasuke. I didn't want you or Tazuna to get hurt. She got an annoyed face and he felt her fist bonk his head, forcing him to nurse it. What was that for? Baka. Don't be so modest and take my compliment. Kakashi finished up and looked over at the two Uchiha. Even as they argued, they were smiling and laughing. It brought a veiled smile to Kakashi's lips as well. Shino just shook his head at their antics but quietly acknowledged Naruto's skill. He made it seem easy to intercept the larger ninja while I felt as if I was pushing myself to reach my target in time. It seems I still have some things to learn. No one acknowledged my win, he said quietly in a somber tone, making the two Uchiha look at him. What was that, Shino? You say something, bug boy? He sighed. No. Kakashi finished tying the two Kirinin to a tree, leaving them to be picked up by proper authorities. Both had since woken up from their slumber but had refused to answer any questions. Occasionally, one would take a glance toward Naruto and glare, but otherwise did nothing. It wasn't long before the jounin gave up and ordered them to continue walking, although he would have a talk with Tazuna soon enough. It was on the first night that Shino volunteered for watch duty as the rest got out their sleeping bags, doused the fire, and proceeded to rest. Sasuke and Naruto chose to sleep next to one another, of course, while Kakashi and Tazuna occupied other sides of the camp. The adhering chose to take up watch in a tall tree, releasing insects from his sleeves as he hopped up each branch to a respectable height. While his bugs formed a perimeter, Shino himself would keep an eye out for movement in the treetops with his view. Content with his setup, he crouched down and leaned against the trunk to get into a comfortable position. Back on the ground, Naruto was having trouble getting to sleep. Against his wishes, Sasuke had taken his free arm and placed it over her body, forcing Naruto to be very close to her. Not that he necessarily had a problem with that, but combined with his troubled thoughts, she was not helping him sleep. Naruto figured a little fresh air would serve him well, and he began to carefully remove himself from her hold. She moaned as his arm slowly slithered out of her hold but smiled when he kissed her cheek. Naruto got up from his sleeping bag and looked around for his other teammate, deciding to pass the time with conversation. Sleep well, Suki-chan. I'll be back. He leaped up into the tree and followed a similar path that the adhering had taken. When he arrived on the same branch, Shino did not flinch at his presence, although Naruto was sure he wasn't exactly expecting him. "Naruto, you should be asleep," he said flatly, and Naruto sighed. "Yeah, well, I'm having a little trouble sleeping, so I thought I would get a little fresh air." Shino shrugged and looked out into the wilderness. "My Kakachu have secured a perimeter of about 100 yards from our camp, so that should give you room to move around." Naruto was tempted to leave as it seemed his teammate wanted quiet, but chose to stay instead. "How about we stay and chat? We should be friends as teammates." He quirked an eyebrow at Naruto's statement. "Friends?" The blonde nodded and looked into the sky, a somber look coming over him. "Yeah, friends. You see, I haven't had such luck with making friends in the past. It was rare that anyone talked to me in the academy or even noticed me. So this is the first chance I've had to get close to someone else." Shino racked his brain for memories of the blonde in the academy and could admittedly come up with few. "It seemed to me plenty of people took notice of you, especially recently." Naruto chuckled, but Shino saw him grip the bark on the branch tightly. "That's thanks to the symbol I wear on my back and the family that took me in. No one has cared to know me other than SASUKE and MIKOTO-san. Back when we were kids, I was either ignored or hated for things that I had no knowledge about or was out of my control." Shino listened intently to Naruto's story, feeling a bond with him that he had not felt before. "Have you ever wondered what it would be like if you could change something about yourself? Just to see how other people would react to you differently?" Then the blonde chuckled again, shaking his head. "No, I guess you wouldn't. I'm sure you never had a problem like that." Shino got up from his place and sat next to Naruto, surprising the boy. He didn't make eye contact but merely looked up into the clouds. "At the full moon that night. Yes, I have. I used to wonder what it would be like if I wasn't born an adhering, if I didn't have these insects living inside of me." Naruto watched as Shino brought a hand up with a few Kakachu crawling on it. It's hard not to think like that, surrounded by others whose bodies were only theirs. To have another entity living and breathing inside you, granting you both power and isolation, is hard to take. Naruto instantly thought of Kyuubi and realized he and Shino were quite similar. "I had few friends growing up, as it is rare for more than a few adhering children to be in a generation together. Other kids in the academy would rarely if ever speak to me, but I chose isolation in that case as it was encouraged by my father. Only Shikamaru, who was too laid back to care about my clan's origins, or Kiba, who would confront anyone who could beat his scores, would interact with me." Naruto looked down and suddenly felt regret, both in thinking he was alone in his pain and also for not speaking with Shino. "When I was put on this team, I expected that isolation to continue whether I chose to be active or not. It was the survival exercise that showed me that individual skill could only go so far. I'm glad we could work together in the end, as it was as much of a lesson to me as it was a wake-up call for all of us." Shino met Naruto's eyes for the first time, even though it was through his shades. "I'm glad to have you as a teammate, Naruto. It's nice to have someone else to talk to, and someone else who shares something inside of them." Naruto's eyes widened. How did he know? Shino looked back into the wilderness, expecting his surprise. "My insects can detect a foul chakra inside of you, something even they wish not to digest. But they can also sense your normal chakra too. So I figure you also have a secret inside of you. It's okay if you can't tell me. I figure if it wasn't important, I would know by now." Naruto pondered whether he should tell Shino or not. He had shared his story. It would only be fair to share his. "Careful who you tell of me, brat. There are those in the world who would try to harness my power. That would mean killing you in the process." Naruto swallowed, but Shino wasn't like that. "I have a chakra entity inside of me. It's very powerful, but I can't really control it." Shino looked back at Naruto in curiosity. "A chakra entity? I've heard that spirits can infest people's bodies. If the spirit was a powerful shinobi, occasionally some chakra will be left behind too. But to think it's this foul. The closest thing I can think of would be a tailed beast." "You mean a tailed beast is sealed inside of you?" Naruto nodded hesitantly and Shino pondered it more. "Interesting." Naruto's eyes widened. He wasn't being hateful or angry at him. "Wait. You don't care that I have one of the beasts inside me?" he whispered in surprise, as if there were others listening. Shino looked at him and shrugged. I find it interesting as I have never seen a Jinchuriki before. I don't see why I should hate you for something you cannot control having or not having, just like my insects. It's thanks to you the beast isn't roaming around freely, and if you can harness its power, you can be quite an asset to Konoha as a powerful shinobi. It would baffle me to think people hate you for it. Naruto was shocked but happy at the same time. It seemed someone did understand him. So you don't hate me for having the 9 tails in me? Shino was surprised it was the 9 tails but came to find it made sense. He shrugged in response. Do you hate me for my insects inside of me? Naruto shook his head and Shino nodded. There was his answer. A moment of silence passed over the two genin as they came to find an understanding between one another. They were alike in more ways than one even though appearances could be deceiving. Perhaps this means we could be friends then? Naruto suddenly asked and Shino quirked an eyebrow. And Uchiha wants to be friends with an adhering? I don't think that's ever happened before. Naruto looked down in disappointment. I understand if you don't. Shino shrugged. But there is a first for everything. He extended his hand and Naruto hesitantly grabbed it in a short handshake. Friends? The Uchiha asked. Friends? The adhering answered. Over the next few days, the group continued their travel to Wave. Sasuke noticed a more relaxed air between Naruto and Shino, which she found to be odd considering the two hadn't talked that much before. They now shared idle banter on the walks, whether it be about the village or jutsu or just how the day was. It was making Sasuke a little jealous, and she longed to be alone with Naruto rather than be stuck with the group. Kakashi still hadn't broached the subject he knew Tazuna was trying to hide, the fact that they encountered ninja in a C-rank mission. It was obvious he had lied when requesting the mission, but the question was why. Was he luring Leaf Ninja into a trap, or was it that a higher rank was too much for him to pay? Kakashi's thoughts on the matter took a worried turn. If so, Wave must be in worse shape than I thought. They soon arrived in a small fishing village where Tazuna led them to the docks. A man was waiting there with a small boat to ferry them across. His eyes darted back and forth as if expecting an attack. The bridge builder exchanged a few words with him while the ninja boarded the vessel. Get us back to Wave as fast as you can. We've been attacked once already. We will have to cross quietly then. Gato has his men watching for your return. Very well, Tazuna said as he sat down and waited for the boat's motor to start. It would be a short trek, as the distance from the mainland to the island was only about 20 minutes or so. However, because of Gato's thugs and the thick mist they were entering, the ferryman turned the motor off and paddled them the rest of the way. Naruto and the others got the hint to stay quiet to not arouse attention, but Kakashi felt now would be the right time to lay down pressure on the man. Tazuna, I think you have some explaining to do. He gave the builder a look that said he should know exactly what Kakashi was talking about. The man's eyes widened and his lips stuttered in a response. What do you dash? I mean, why are there ninja chasing after you when you requested protection from bandits? This mission is too much for the genin under my command, no matter how talented they are. Sasuke growled but kept quiet as Naruto threw an arm around her waist and brought her close. Tazuna sighed. It seemed like this was the end of the line. Better to come clean with them as they had already saved his life once. Yes, Kakashi, you are correct that I lied about the mission details to your village. It was because I had no other choice. Wave is now a very poor and oppressed country, taken over by a business giant named Gato. Kakashi's eyes widened in recognition. Gato from Gato Shipping? He's a large trader of goods in these parts. Tazuna nodded. Yes, before he came, Wave prospered in its own export of fish and minerals found here. He then took over our docks, locked down our fishing lanes, and strangled our town into poverty. Gato is not a good man, Kakashi. It seemed like it from the way he described. It was my hope that by building a bridge to the mainland, I could end his oppression by bringing in trade and visitors to see the kind of man he was. Gato may control the sea, but a bridge to the strongest nation is not something he can just blockade openly. Before I could finish my work, though, he started hiring his goons after my workers, hurting them or scaring them off. I was running out of options. The genin began to see where the story was going, but could not help but sympathize with the man in front of them. On my latest trek to Fire Country for materials, I decided to try and hire Ninja to protect me. Even though he had only sent his thugs after us so far, rumors had spread around town he was using Ninja to make people disappear. When I looked at your prices, an A or even a B rank mission was too high for me to afford. After coming all that way, I couldn't return empty-handed. Tazuna explained in desperation he had no options. So you went with a C-rank mission and ended up getting shinobi who aren't prepared to fight the people after you? These are only genin Tazuna. They can't stop an army of bandits or a handful of chunin. You could have gotten them killed. Kakashi explained, and Tazuna looked at the three young ones before bowing his head in shame. I'm sorry, Kakashi. I didn't mean for harm to come to any of you. It's just, this bridge is Wave's last chance to beat Gato. If this keeps up for much longer, we will die under his will. Put the Jounin in a precarious position. His team was not prepared to take on the enemies being thrown at them. However, the people of a country were suffering and would not survive without an intervention. They had already come too far anyway as they began to approach Wave's shores. What do you guys think? Kakashi asked his team, who had been quiet so far. Naruto looked at the other two and shrugged. We are already here, and people need our help. It wouldn't be right to turn back now. Sasuke looked at Naruto and then back at Kakashi and thought, I agree with Naruto. Besides, we asked for a harder mission, and this is much better than pulling weeds. She smirked and Kakashi sighed. The girl would pick danger over safety. I also agree with Naruto. Well, that decided it. Looks like we will be staying with you after all, Tazuna-san. The man began to smile wide as they pulled up to the dock. Good. It would be terrible if I had to tell my grandchildren that you left me to die and swear revenge on your village for the rest of my life. The party sweat dropped at the man's act. They were quickly ushered off the boat as the man didn't want to remain there for long. Tazuna waved goodbye and then began to walk away from the small port and into the forest, toward his home. Come on, it's this way. When we get home, I'll have my daughter make us some food. That sounded good to the rest of them as they proceeded farther into the land of Wave. A pair of eyes was watching their progress with a building level of excitement. It seemed that there would be more of a challenge after all to killing the bridge builder. No wonder the demon brothers failed. The copycat of the leaf is with them. Kakashi Hatake, I will enjoy crossing you out of my old bingo book. Quickly and quietly, the large figure kept pace with them in the trees, unbeknownst to the group of leaf ninja. Konohagakure, Uchiha compound. Mikoto returned to her home from her usual daily errands in a bit of a rush. Over the past few days, she had been getting the odd feeling that someone was watching her go about her day. Occasionally a bush would rattle or some dirt would kick up when she would turn to look in the direction, but nothing solid. Whoever was attempting to play a prank was not doing a good job of it. It can't be ANBU. They wouldn't make such careless mistakes for me to notice their presence. She thought as she entered her home's family room to sit and calm herself. A genin, perhaps? Why would they try and play a prank on me, though? No, that's not likely. Mikoto opened a sliding door to the garden to allow air to flow into the room. The only other thing I could think of would be an admirer, but to stalk me? That's not exactly flattering. Not to mention I'm not interested in anyone for now. That brought up another sad point in Mikoto's life. She had yet to find any man her age she found attractive. All were either married, unapproachable, or deceased. So far, it wasn't looking good for her finding someone to use for the CRA, even less someone she could marry. Of course, Mikoto could go for the younger men of the village, but something about that just seemed wrong to her. Besides, what if they didn't want to be with the Uchiha matriarch? The Uchiha aren't exactly the most loved in the village these days. Mikoto sighed. Problem after problem seemed to confront her small family. Their only choice was to overcome them one at a time. Things would get better when the Chunin exams would come along. That way her children would be at home and training. A creak in the floor made her jump and look at the doorway that led further into the house. The house was quiet without her children, and no sound should have been made. Perhaps her stalker was finally making a move? Mikoto took out a kunai slowly from her thigh pouch. Whoever it was, they would have a very dangerous Uchiha on their hands. In silence, she left her family room and peered down either end of the hall. With nothing in sight, she began to creep toward her room on the first floor. Perhaps they had come to steal something from her. A pervert would have to be punished even worse, she thought as she approached her room's door. Still closed. Quietly, she opened the door and looked inside to find nothing disturbed. Another creak behind her made her whirl around, and she saw something look around the corner before getting back. Mikoto gave pursuit. There was someone after her. Stop! Mikoto rounded the corner to find nothing, so she proceeded to run outside and then hop onto her roof to look around. The inner compound's wooden gate was open, and she had definitely closed it when she came home. Whoever was in her home had gotten away, but just the thought of them entering without permission made her angry. And a little bit nervous. Now wasn't the time for that, though. Mikoto had to alert the Hokage about the breach. She hoped her children were safe, because if they were targeting Uchiha, Naruto and Sasuke would be in danger too. Stay safe, you two. Mikoto prayed as she began her run to the Hokage's office. Wave country, forest. As the group moved through the forest, the sun beat down on them from midday. Although not as hot as the land of fire, Wave did not offer much more comfort in the way of weather. Naruto had wandered ahead of the pack a bit and was looking around for something. Sasuke was on Kakashi's right, Tazuna on his left, and Shino still lagged behind. The old man had said his house was still a good ways away, and Kakashi believed that they could expect an attack before then. What he didn't know was when it would happen or who it would be. Tazuna had made himself an enemy of a business giant, and that meant few mercenaries or rogue ninja were out of his reach. The first two had been from Kiri, and Kakashi was inclined to believe the next one would be as well. But who? Naruto had been very careful since the initial ambush, as he did not want to repeat how close their assassins got. So Naruto had decided to take the lead and keep himself alert for anything that could be a threat. Of course, he wasn't naive to think he could beat every threat, but if worse came to worse, he would be the one hurt and not Sasuke. I won't let anything happen to her. I promised. Kyuubi used what little control he had over his chakra to reach out and sense the surroundings in an attempt to help Naruto. For the most part, he only felt animals or the other members of their party, but on the edge of his influence was always something trailing them. Could have been an enemy ninja, but Kyuubi didn't want to say anything unless he knew for sure. Besides, it would be a good challenge for his container. A rustle in the bushes brought Naruto's quick reflexes into play. Before anyone could react, Naruto had released a kunai into the forest and the rustling suddenly stopped. Everyone went on alert as he approached the spot and suddenly sagged his shoulders and sighed. It's just a rabbit. They sweat dropped as the blonde bent down and picked up his kunai and apparently took a look at the rabbit. Wait, Naruto said to himself as he looked at the coat. It was pure white as if it was for winter. It was right in the throes of summer here. That much was obvious. Why did this bunny rabbit have that color of a coat if it lived here? The conclusion hit him. This rabbit was kept in captivity for the sole purpose of kawarimi, a substitute. Kakashi-sensei. Naruto turned back toward the group only to see a huge sword come swinging out of the trees. Everybody down. The jounin ordered and knelt while the others scrambled. The sword impaled itself on a tree above Naruto, and a figure appeared standing on its hilt perfectly. Naruto didn't even need to know their name. It was obvious by his stature and appearance the ninja before him was a jounin, an elite ninja. For a moment he was frozen in fear, so much so he couldn't hear or obey Kakashi's warning to get back. Naruto, get away from him. Kakashi ran forward but cursed as Zabuza dropped from his perch, sheathing his sword and towering over the blonde. You saw through my diversion, kid. Not bad. An uppercut sent Naruto off the ground, and a stern kick to his stomach made him hurtle back into Kakashi's arms. He caught Naruto and skidded back on the ground, cursing his speed. The boy had the wind knocked out of him but otherwise was fine. Sasuke made to run at the man but was sent a glare from Kakashi. No, Sasuke, he isn't like the others. This guy is on a whole nother level. Naruto wobbled out of his grasp and returned to the group. Squad, Manji formation around Tazuna. All three genin quickly took out kunai and surrounded Tazuna, Naruto in front with Sasuke on his right and Shino on his left. The Kirinin did not seem impressed and kept his position on the ground while Kakashi took a few steps forward to match him. So, Zabuza Momochi is my opponent. The exiled Kiri shinobi who ran after his attempt on the Yondaime Mizukage's life. Zabuza shrugged and crossed his arms. I'm honored that the Leaf's copycat ninja knows my name, Kakashi Hatake. The genin were surprised their sensei was so well known. He even had a nickname with other nations. But if you don't mind, I'd like to get this moving. So hand over the old man and you can go, although it would be a shame if you didn't try to put up a fight. The Kirinin obviously wanted a fight, but Naruto knew that they couldn't give Tazuna to him even if they wanted to. Sorry, but that's not going to happen. You'll have to go through me first. Kakashi set a hand on his headband in preparation to lift it, but for what they didn't know. Ah, is this the famed Sharingan I am going to see? Sasuke and Naruto's spine got a chill when he said that. How did Kakashi have a Sharingan? That's our clan's Kekkei Genkai. Only Kasan and him have it that are alive. How does Kakashi have one? Sasuke could not help but disbelieve what Zabuza said. There was no way he had something that only a few Uchiha ever obtain. Naruto was less surprised, given the fact he too was a non-Uchiha with 2 Sharingan eyes. However, without knowing the story of how he got his, Naruto was skeptical. Kakashi-sensei had one implanted. Like me? Well, isn't this a nice twist? Kyubi commented with sarcasm, as if he expected something like it. Sharingan. Isn't that your Kekkei Genkai, Sasuke? Shino questioned as eyes fell on her. She gulped. The Sharingan Eye is my clan's Kekkei Genkai, allowing for advanced ninja techniques and higher forms of genjutsu creation and detection. I don't know how Kakashi could have one though. She admitted, somewhat in embarrassment, that he had one where she did not. Back when I was in Kiri's assassination squad, I carried a bingo book with your name in it asking for your capture. It said you had copied over 1,000 techniques. As Zabuza spoke, a thick mist began to roll into the clearing they were setting up for a battlefield. I'd like to test that theory myself, he added with a smirk under his bandages. Kakashi lifted his headband and revealed his 3-tomoed Sharingan, swirling as it observed Zabuza. I'd like to spend all day talking, but let's get serious. I need to kill that man. He indicated the target with his broadsword, making Tazuna stumble back a few steps. If you are the first one, then let's get to it, Kakashi. Zabuza suddenly jumped backward and landed in a small body of water behind him. He brought his arms up and formed a special sign with his hands as he channeled chakra into the water. The liquid began to swirl and shape around him as they watched. Intrigued. He's on the water, Naruto whispered in surprise as the others watched. He's channeling a lot of chakra into that water, Kakashi observed, trying to predict his opponent's next move. Kirigakure no Jutsu, the natural mist that had rolled in turned into a thick fog, concealing the ninja and shortening everyone's visibility to near zero. Be careful, Zabuza is a master of the silent kill technique. He can move this mist and find you with ease, so stay sharp. Kakashi warned his squad as the mist settled in. But the worst thing that could happen is that you die, he added as an afterthought, as if to soothe their worries. No one said anything, but all 3 genin tensed. Sasuke's eyes darted back and forth in near terror as she lost track of Kakashi in the mist, watching for their enemy. He could be anywhere and Kakashi could have already been killed with what felt like the hour she had stood in the same spot. Her knuckles tightened and turned white around the kunai she held onto like a lifeline. She could hear her own heartbeat. It was as if she was alone in the world now, except for the predator stalking her in the mist. Where is he? To the left, no the right? Will he come below or above? A moment away from death. This feeling is killing me. Naruto was only keeping calm by remembering he had to protect Tazuna and Sasuke. The goal and duty of those tasks gave him control of his body. Shino showed no reaction, but his bugs chattered as they began to escape from his sleeves and search the area for their enemy. 8 points. Their opponent's gravely voice filled their ears as he began to list off places on a body. The larynx, spine, lungs, liver, jugular vein, collarbone, kidney, and heart. Now, which one do I choose to kill you with? The 3 genin froze as their eyes darted back and forth, fearing an attack. Kakashi brought his hands up in the ram sign and focused his chakra, sending it pulsing out to repel the mist. Squad 7 shielded their eyes as wind gusted against them, and again their sensei was in sight. Sasuke was still frozen in fear. She could only lock onto Kakashi in faint hope of survival. This intense killing intent released by our opponent. It's too strong. I can barely move. Sasuke, calm down. She listened to Kakashi as he called to her. I will not allow one of my comrades to die. He turned around and gave her a smile, a reassuring one that allowed Sasuke to breathe easy for a moment. Yes, Sasuke, I won't let anything happen to you. Naruto nudged her with his elbow and gave her a confident smirk. Be baka. I'm an Uchiha too. Are you sure about that, Kakashi? Sasuke stopped mid-sentence when Zabuza's voice was practically right in her ear. Kakashi rounded about to see the assassin right in the midst of the three, breaking their manji formation. His Sharingan saw through the technique and he began to run forward to attack. This is the end. Naruto activated his Sharingan and swung his weapon arm behind him where Zabuza now stood. The Jounin had not planned on the genin counterattacking and looked down at his stomach where the kunai now impaled. And then he looked into the blonde's eyes to see two Tomoed Sharingan staring back at him. A murderous glare and scowl set on his face. I don't think so. Kakashi stopped mid-step and was shocked to see Naruto's eyes. They were Sharingan too. He had heard about the operation but thought it was a failure. He had them hidden this whole time? Sasuke was still in shock. Naruto had stabbed Zabuza right in the middle of his attack and now he was staring him down with two Sharingan eyes? When did Naruto get the Sharingan? First Kakashi. Now even Naruto has them? Shino was surprised as well, but kept the questions for later. The threat was still on as water, instead of blood leaked from their enemy's body. The Kirinin exploded into a splash of water and drenched the four who stood near him, and Naruto pulled back his kunai arm and got ready again. Naruto. He looked at Sasuke and met her eyes with his. You've had the Sharingan this whole time, haven't you, Naruto? Kakashi asked and he nodded. Enough with the shock and awe. Zabuza appeared behind Kakashi and swung his sword right through, too fast for the others to react. The Jounin exploded into a pool of water and Zabuza's eyes widened in disbelief. A Mizu Bunshin? He copied me that quickly. A kunai was at his throat and Zabuza inclined his head to see Kakashi, perfectly fine behind him. When he had turned to look at Zabuza the first time, his Sharingan had copied the water clone technique. Then he replaced himself with a Mizu Bunshin after Zabuza's dispersed. Now it's over, Zabuza, Kakashi stated, holding the knife close to his neck. Naruto could rest easy for the moment and released his Sharingan, allowing his blue eyes to return. Sasuke still couldn't believe it and was at a loss for words, something Naruto looked quite sorry for. I'm sorry, Sasuke. I'll explain better when I get a chance. I felt if I kept it a secret, then I could take an opponent by surprise. They would never expect a non-Uchiha like me to have the Sharingan. Sasuke just nodded. She still felt a little betrayed that Naruto had not told her something so important. Zabuza and Kakashi merely watched the genin as both were surely planning on how to continue the fight. They were using the pause to think of what to do next. It's over, Zabuza repeated and Kakashi tightened his grip on his weapon. No, Kakashi, only the attacker can say when it's over and I am far from done. Chapter 10. Wave Country, Forest. Zabuza chuckled as the Jounin held the kunai to his throat. The genin seemed so confident they had won, forgetting about him as a threat. Only Kakashi seemed to realize the true danger. Did you really think you could beat me with an imitation? I'm much tougher than that, Kakashi. Kakashi's grip on his weapon tightened and he tensed. A clone of Zabuza appeared from behind and forced Kakashi to turn his head in surprise. The one he had captured turned into water as the new one swung his sword. You're mine. Kakashi sidestepped the swing but was taken by surprise with Zabuza's quick movement. He gripped his sword hilt for balance and kicked Kakashi into the air, sending him flying for the nearby pond. With a deadly smirk, the Mist Jounin reversed his grip and took the sword with him in a mad dash toward the struggling sensei. Naruto and the others could only watch in shock as their teacher was being beaten. How is he being beaten? Not only with our clan's Sharingan but his experience. This is not happening. Sasuke was the most taken aback as their teacher pulled himself out of the water, unaware of danger. This is thick water, almost as if fool. Kakashi's eyes widened and he turned to see Zabuza go through hand signs for a Suetun technique. His Sharingan then came to the chilling realization the water was thick with chakra, and it was being molded around him to form a prison. The water orb cascaded and formed around him, forcing him to hold his breath but leaving him unable to move with the density of the liquid. Suetun, Suiro, damn. I thought I could use the water as cover, but it seemed he planned for that. Zabuza is stronger than I expected. You can't escape from this one Kakashi. You give me too much trouble when you are allowed to move. Zabuza's killer glare pierced the Jonin as he spoke volumes on his plan. I'll take care of you later, but right now I think I'll deal with these runts. He turned to look at Naruto and the rest who were locked in place, unsure of what to do. Mizu Bunshin, a clone of the Kiri Nin, appeared from the water, wearing a devilish smirk as it approached the three. Naruto was the closest and he knew he would have to deal with Zabuza if they wanted a chance of freeing Kakashi. The first problem was the water clone, which although it wasn't equal in strength to its owner, it was still enough of a challenge that made Naruto nervous. You call yourselves ninja because you wear a headband, but true ninja have gone through life or death situations, had years of experience, and in a flash step the clone was right on top of Naruto, who could only bring his arms up to block. Don't hesitate. Zabuza kicked him and sent him flying back, skidding on the dirt. Naruto. Sasuke leaped to his side and helped him up, glaring at the clone. You bastard! Before she could charge him, Naruto put a hand on her shoulder as he often did to calm her. Wiping some dirt from his cheek, he just shook his head. Calm down, Sasuke. We need a plan before we can take him down. She looked at Naruto, surprised he was keeping so calm after getting hit. Just seeing him get hit made her blood boil. Shino appeared on her other side and offered his own counsel. Naruto is right, Sasuke. We can't rush in blindly or else we'll die. Kakashi knew that his team had great potential, but even this was too much for them. Zabuza was a Jonin of the mist. He wouldn't hesitate to strike them down as long as they were in his way. They were sitting ducks as long as they remained. Everyone, take Tazuna-san and run as far as you can. His water clone can't move far from his body and he can't move as long as he has me in this prison. That's your chance to escape. It wasn't a good plan, but it was the only one the three could pull off at their current level. Leave? No. That chance disappeared once you were captured, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto grabbed a kunai from his pouch and made a hand sign. Now our only chance is to free you. Sasuke saw him prepare and wondered what had gotten into him. Did he have a plan? Naruto, she questioned as Shino looked on as well. I'll handle the clone. You two get Kakashi free. As soon as he said that, 5 more Naruto appeared ready to fight. But Naruto, how are we supposed to do that? She asked, not understanding where his confidence was coming from. The blonde turned on his Sharingan and looked at the real Zabuza, specifically his hand holding the water prison. His chakra was focused on that point, holding the shape and strength of the water sphere to hold their teacher. If that link could be severed, then Kakashi would be free. Separate him from the sphere and the jutsu will dissipate. Shino nodded in understanding as he observed Zabuza. He hadn't taken his hand off the prison since he first created it. Sasuke understood too, but she was still so confused about where Naruto was getting his cool head from. She was expecting him to panic, like she did at first. I guess that's what makes him my better half. She smirked as she gave a nod to Naruto and a thumbs up from Shino signaled the start. Are you done plotting how you'll die yet? Zabuza's clone spoke, biting back a chuckle. Naruto just gritted his teeth and ran forward, his clones following close behind. If he could take out the clone it would be great, but there was a chance Zabuza would pick up on their plan and create a new one. His best bet was to hold its attention while Shino and Sasuke took on the original. The Jonin smirked and brought his sword to bear as they ran forward. A bloodthirsty glare sent chills down Naruto's spine. He threw his kunai at Zabuza, who blocked it with his sword, but also cutting his visibility as the other clones charged from above and his flanks. True to his skill, he remained calm and nonchalantly kicked one on his left that had let its guard down. Another on his right was hit in the head with his sword hilt as he swung it upward to block the jumping clone's attack. They met blades, but Zabuza easily won the strength match and pushed the clone back enough for it to hit a tree and disappear. The last two threw their kunai in an attempt to distract him but only received his full attention. One got sliced clean through with the cleaver and the other one was sent up into the air by a kick, allowing the clone to get back to the original Naruto who hadn't taken part in the attack. As he turned, His eyes widened as he heard the jutsu being called. Katan Gokakyu no Jutsu. A red fireball launched at him and he quickly sidestepped the beast, realizing that it was poorly aimed. Nowhere close, brat. Naruto ran forward with a kunai and a smirk as Zabuza brought his sword down to end the fight. Using his Sharingan to predict the movement, Naruto leaped to the side and pushed forward at the clone. With its sword impaled in the ground, the clone had no choice but to try and grab Naruto before he could make contact. Adjusting his body to meet the grapple, the blonde avoided it and sent his kunai right through the arm which severed it. Before it could reform, Naruto impaled the clone's stomach and let its water flow out slowly. As the clone came to the throes of defeat, the blonde looked up at him and deactivated his Sharingan. One thing, Zabuza, Naruto panted out as exhaustion crept onto him. That fireball wasn't meant for you. The clone's eyes widened as it turned to watch the genin's plan unfold. Damn, brats. The clone burst into mist, covering Naruto's gaunt face. That Sharingan still takes a lot out of me, was all he could think of before he collapsed in an attempt to regain his strength. Zabuza found it entertaining to watch the fight between Naruto and his clone for only so long. Luckily, the kid with the overcoat brought him more entertainment as he stood before the pool of water, hands in his pockets and without a single expression on his face. Got tired of your teammate doing everything for you? Come to rescue Sensei all by yourself. He teased, receiving no reaction. Zabuza scowled. There was no entertainment when a runt didn't show fear. He'd have to create another clone to teach him a lesson. Before he could concentrate, a red mass crept into the corner of his eye. Turning into it, Zabuza realized that a stray jutsu was coming right at him from the battle between his clone and Naruto. Cursing, he stomped his foot on the ground and a wall of water shielded him from the blast, although royals of heat and steam smacked his face from the power behind the technique. That was close. A swarm of insects charged Zabuza from the front, sent out from Shino's revealed hands. The adhering directed them with the cold precision that was accustomed to his clan. Shit! Zabuza launched himself into the air, making the water spurn up and distract the insects while he got his bearings. A clever distraction, but not enough to fool me. In front of him, a clone of Naruto sailed through the air. He could only watch in surprise as it reached into its bag and found purchase, a windmill shuriken. It twisted in the air the best it could to get in a good throwing pose before letting it loose right at the mid-air Zabuza. Kakashi could only look on, amazed at the timing they were launching their attacks. When did that clone get made? Then Kakashi remembered the last clone Naruto used to fight the clone that got kicked into the air. Did he really think that out? No way. The clone ran at Zabuza's flank while the other ran at him in the front. They were to buy time for Naruto to use his technique, and so their plan was to physically hold down the clone for as long as they could. Zabuza brought his sword to bear and sliced through the other one, leaving him alone. A quick glance to Naruto signaled the technique was ready, and he suddenly stopped running at the clone. The oncoming kick allowed the blonde an excuse to get airborne, making his body go with the attack and look as if he had been hit. The Zabuza clone had little time to tell otherwise as it sensed the fireball, leaving the shadow clone clear to get ready for its attack on the real Zabuza. Zabuza glared as the shuriken approached. He had to respect their tenacity, but the kids were getting on his nerve. However, he wouldn't be beaten so easily. He had a reputation to keep. Shino sent his bugs flying up towards Zabuza, not trusting the shuriken to do its job. Even though it was Sasuke's turn, he wanted to be sure that the jonin couldn't get away. Unfortunately, Zabuza had anticipated his insects and made sure the chakra water coated them, weighing them down and making them unable to reach. Although it only gave him a few moments until he came back down, it was enough for him to think of a way to escape. I don't think so. Zabuza easily caught the windmill and threw it back at the clone, slicing through it with ease. His triumph was short-lived as Sasuke appeared behind him and brought her full-force axe kick down on his extended arm holding Kakashi, forcing him to let go and growl in pain. All three fell into the water and Naruto weakly moved over to join Shino at the edge of the pool, waiting anxiously for them to surface. Come on, Sasuke. Please be safe. She was the first one to appear above water, catching sight of Naruto and giving him a thumbs up. He was about to return it when another figure rose up out of the water, directly behind her. "You, little bitch." He grabbed the hilt of his sword behind his back and brought it crashing down on her frozen form, unable to move. Naruto wanted to leap across the water and save her, but he was too far. All he could do was scream her name, "Sasuke." She closed her eyes and bit down on her lip, waiting for the blow to end her. It never came. Kakashi stood in front of her, fighting Zabuza in a test of strength with his kunai. He had blocked the blow meant for her. She looked up at him, surprised that he arrived in time. Even though he was exerting his strength and in the middle of a fight, he spared a look down at her with a smile. "I told you, Sasuke, I won't let my comrades die." She blushed against her will, both in embarrassment and in thanks. Kakashi looked back toward Naruto, the obvious leader of the group. It was thanks to him they could rally behind the counterattack and beat Zabuza. "Naruto, that was a great plan. You did well working under pressure to use your teammates' strengths to overcome a stronger opponent. Same to you, Shino and Sasuke. You all did great." As a teacher with high standards, Kakashi did not give compliments often. When he did, though, they were well-deserved. "If they had me believing in their plan, then it must mean something. We knew our only chance was to free you, Kakashi-sensei, so we worked like a team. There was no way to beat Zabuza, but there was a way to break his control." Naruto extrapolated the plan, giving silent thanks to Shino and Sasuke for working together. They may be competitive, but at least they can be a team when it counts. Zabuza was not as impressed and pushed off from Kakashi, creating some distance between them in the pool of water. Sasuke swam to shore and was helped up by her brother and Shino. With his team safe, Kakashi could now focus solely on his opponent. "I got distracted and couldn't keep hold of the jutsu. Big deal," the Genin explained, trying to lessen their praise. Kakashi glared. "Don't kid yourself. You had no choice but to release the jutsu." Zabuza scowled. "It worked once, Zabuza, but I promise that your trick won't work again." Kakashi got into a fighting stance and prepared for the next part of the battle. The genin quickly returned to Tazuna's side for the rest of the battle. Zabuza was still out of their league. It was better to let Kakashi handle him. "So, what's your next move?" Kakashi chided and Zabuza glared. In a lightning-fast motion, the assassin began going through hand signs for a jutsu. Kakashi's Sharingan followed them and copied it. The genin were impressed as this was the first time they had seen a high-level jutsu used between jonin. Suitun, Suryuden, Suitun, Suryuden. Two water dragons spiraled out of the water and roared as if they were real beasts being summoned for battle. The two jutsu users concentrated and had their jutsu block one another, making the forms smash together and rain water down onto them. They met in the middle beneath the sinking dragon corpses, in a test of strength between their weapons. Zabuza struggled against Kakashi, not understanding how their jutsu could occur simultaneously. It was true that the Sharingan could copy a technique and follow the hand signs. However, the users start at different times, meaning the jutsu would not be simultaneous. Does it mean he was dash? Zabuza broke from their battle and ran around Kakashi, who followed in turn. When he went to form the hand sign for another jutsu, the Konoha ninja mimicked this as well. It was a perfect synchronization, and there was no way he could guess these moves correctly. "Is he dash reading your mind?" Zabuza's eyes widened when Kakashi answered the question he had been thinking. He began to weave a sign only to see Kakashi follow. "It irritates you, doesn't it? You're just a monkey, copying its master." He began to weave signs, this time with a serious intention. Kakashi began to copy them just as he did. Zabuza stopped when he saw a shadow behind Kakashi, quickly realizing it was himself. Was it a mind game by Kakashi's hand? Or did he really believe that he was fighting himself? Suitun, Daibakufu no Jutsu. But wait, how did you dash? The tidal wave of water formed quickly in front of Kakashi and launched itself at Zabuza, giving him little time to understand. Unable to dodge the speeding rapids, the Genin could only allow himself to be swept away by the whirling tides, smashing into branches and trees of the nearby forest as it swept him away. "I was about to create a tidal wave too," Zabuza growled as he struggled against the tide, trying to escape. He copies my jutsu and does them before I even have a chance to finish. I can't keep up with him. The tide picked up as it neared its end, sending him spiraling out of control through the tunnel of water. Naruto and the others braced themselves as the water whipped back toward them as well, sending a fury of wind and water right at them. They fought on to keep watching as the battle neared its conclusion, hoping that Kakashi would finally finish him off. Come on, Kakashi-sensei. Zabuza was slammed into a tree as the water receded, giving him a moment of respite. It felt as if his body had just gotten done with being in a washing machine. He could barely move his arms or legs from the pressure that had been put on them. Before he could even look up, a flurry of kunai were launched and hit him in the arms and legs, making him scream in pain. Sensing his enemy, Zabuza looked up to see Kakashi kneeling on a branch with a pitiful look in his eye. He roared in defiance to the Jonin, even in his weakened position. "You're finished, Zabuza," Kakashi said matter-of-factly. He struggled to understand. How could he lose? What made Kakashi have the upper hand in their fight? How could I have lost? How is it you can see my movements before I do them? A psychic? Kakashi took out another kunai and prepared for the final blow. "Yes. This is your last battle, Zabuza." His eyes widened, but both sensed an attack coming from another angle. Ugh! The needles hit right in his neck, ending his moan of agony. Kakashi watched as a young boy with a mask appeared next to Zabuza's body, inspecting it. Naruto and the others joined them to see the events unfold, confused. Who was the new person? Zabuza collapsed forward on the ground. No sign of life could be seen. Kakashi dropped to the ground and inspected the body himself, feeling for a pulse on his neck. He was rewarded with none. No vital signs. He looked up at the boy who merely bowed. "Thank you, it's been difficult finding this one. He has many hideouts scattered across these islands, and only a long, drawn-out battle would allow me to have him in one place long enough to kill him." Kakashi looked him over, focusing on the mask. "From your outfit, it looks like you're a tracker ninja from the hidden mist. So young. But he's got great strength. There is something about him that isn't normal, though." "What is it?" Haku nodded in confirmation. "You are well informed, Kakashi of Konoha." "What exactly is a tracker ninja?" Naruto asked the other two quietly, not understanding. Sasuke made to answer, but Shino beat her to it. "They are ninja that are specially trained in combat against shinobi and in the tracking of missing ninja. Their orders are to find and eliminate traitors to the village, to prevent secrets and techniques unique to them from falling into enemy hands." Sasuke glared at her teammate but nonetheless agreed. "I see." Naruto looked again at the boy who had made his way over to Zabuza, lifting him over his shoulder. "As it was my duty to eliminate Zabuza, it is also my duty to handle the body. If you would excuse me, I would like to get this over with." The squad assembled around Kakashi as they merely stared the Kiri ninja down as he prepared to leave. "Thank you again, ninja of Konoha." Haku disappeared into a vortex of water, leaving the party of 5 alone. "Well, I'm glad that's over with," Naruto said, breathing a sigh of relief. Sasuke and Shino nodded. Their first battle was a tense one, even if it was successful. They could use a good rest after that. Tazuna scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. It was because of him they had to fight in the first place. "Sorry I got everyone in this mess." He smiled, trying to lighten the mood. "When we get to my house, I'll be sure to have my daughter cook a nice meal for all of you." Kakashi put on a smile for the team, even as his body threatened to give out. "All right, let's get moving." He took one step, and that was when he could feel his body just stop working. Everyone watched as if in slow motion. Their teacher fell over onto the ground, unconscious. Naruto ran over first and checked. He was exhausted from using the Sharingan. "Just like after my battle." Naruto knew the feeling. "What happened?" Sasuke asked as she ran over to see. "He's exhausted from the fight and using his Sharingan, so he collapsed." "It's happened to me too." Shino and Tazuna walked over in concern, wondering what to do next. "Here, I'll hold him by one end and Sasuke can grab the other." Shino and Tazuna, lead the way. Naruto and Sasuke picked up their sensei's heavy body and carried him along as the group made their way to safety. Wave Country, Tazuna's house. A day later, Kakashi stirred in his sleep. Remembering the situation they were in after he collapsed, he jolted up from the bed only to flinch in pain. His body was sore and he had little energy to move. Tsunade stood above him, hands on her hips as if about to scold a child. "Sensei, if your body is weak, then you shouldn't move." Kakashi sighed and nodded, laying back down. "I won't be able to move right for a week. Better if I lie down." Hearing the commotion, the three genin came into the room and sat near his bedside. He looked them over and was glad to see they all looked okay from the previous battle. "The Sharingan is a powerful tool, Sensei, but if it will make you this exhausted after its use, it might be better to not overuse it." Shino gave voice to what they all were thinking and Kakashi sighed. "Sorry for worrying you guys." Tazuna came in as well to check in. "You took down the strongest ninja Gato has. We should be safe for a while. Take a load off." His cheerful demeanor was quickly silenced as Kakashi and the others did not return it. Something felt off after the last battle, something that had been nagging at them. The battle wasn't over yet was what it said. "Kakashi-sensei, who exactly was the guy in the mask?" Sasuke asked, as something about him bothered her. "Well, he was a tracker ninja from the Hidden Mist. They are a special squad of ninja that eliminate and destroy the presence of any rogue shinobi from their village to prevent their secrets from being examined or stolen." They listened as he explained his knowledge. "Secrets?" Naruto asked and Kakashi nodded. "For example, if Naruto or I were to die, our enemies could examine the Sharingan." Sasuke cut a glance toward Naruto as he flinched on his mention. "And in a worst-case scenario, our techniques as well as our eyes would be taken for use by the enemy village." They were quiet. That was a grim reality that faced them as shinobi. Haku sat next to an immobile Zabuza, preparing to remove his bandages to allow him a better chance to breathe. They were still in the forest, having left the Konoha squad behind a while back. As he reached to remove the cloth, Zabuza caught his wrist and undid the bandage himself. "I can do it," he said, and Haku obediently backed down, though he flinched as he watched his master remove the needles roughly from his neck. "Damn, you were too rough with those. Please, Zabuza-sama, be more careful when removing them or you could die. For real." The swordsman didn't seem to mind as he sat up and took a deep breath. He looked over Haku for a moment before huffing. "When are you gonna take that mask off?" Haku froze and then chuckled a bit. "Sorry. It's been a while since I used it. I forgot I had it on." He removed it, revealing his pale and girlish face to Zabuza, who only grimaced as he began thinking of the past battle. "Damn that Kakashi. I hate to admit it, but the only reason I'm still alive is Haku. It was nice to use to put on the act. The Konoha ninja didn't suspect it." Zabuza chewed on his thumb, thinking about what happened. "You didn't need to use the needles on my neck to inflict the near-death state," he stated, although Haku expected him to say it. Haku knew that Zabuza disliked it when they were forced to do such an act, especially as it was uncomfortable for him. "You're a wicked kid for doing that." He put his bandages back on as Haku smiled. "It couldn't be helped. Their jonin was very observant. The neck was the best chance I had to make it look believable." Zabuza huffed but didn't say anything more. "Besides, I didn't want to damage you in any way. The neck has fewer muscles, making it less damaging in the long run." The jonin tried to stand but found it difficult to move at all from his upright position. "It will be difficult to move for the next week or so, but perhaps you will move sooner, Zabuza-sama." He looked over the boy, seeing his innocent smile of amusement. "You are pure, clever, and talented," Zabuza said as a statement. He smirked. "That's what I like about you." Haku blushed and smiled. "I'm still just a kid, so that makes sense." Around them the fog lifted, allowing for easy visibility. Haku stood up and prepared to help the swordsman move. "Will you be okay the next time you fight?" Zabuza glared at the ground, thinking of Kakashi. "Next time I will deal with that Sharingan. For sure." Wave country, forest. A few days later and Kakashi was up and about, albeit with the help of some crutches made by Tazuna in his spare time. With the looming threat of Zabuza returning over the horizon, Kakashi had set about training the three genin in tree climbing for chakra exercise. The sooner they learned how to do this, and the sooner they would be prepared to fight against an opponent in any position. He was limping through the forest on his way to check on the two still training. Shino had done well from the start, as to be expected from an adhering. Because their chakra was constantly being fed on by their insects, they had to learn how to control and manage their chakra flow to have enough at all times. Sasuke and Naruto, on the other hand, while they had more chakra to access, did not have the ability to control it. Not only did this force them both to stay after Shino and Kakashi had left, but it also didn't help their tense attitude, since after the fight with Zabuza, Kakashi had noticed that Sasuke was treating everything like a competition with Naruto since he had revealed his Sharingan, and he was afraid something had happened between them. It must have been tough on Naruto not telling his family about his secret, especially his own sister. I see why he did it though. I just hope he doesn't regret it. Shino was guarding Tazuna at the bridge, allowing him time to work with the two in their forest training. As he arrived at their training ground, he saw that both of them had collapsed in the grass, sleeping. Their hands were over one another, and it seemed they kept each other company before falling asleep. Kakashi smiled at this notion before looking at the trees. Notches littered their trunks, showing a progressive improvement throughout the day and night they had to train. Although they had not gotten to the top yet, Kakashi had no doubt that by tonight, the two would be successful in their first step in training. Dropping off a basket with lunch, Kakashi decided to head back and leave them to it. The competition between them would only help the other improve, so he would leave it be. Besides, as brother and sister, nothing would get too out of hand, as they would always be family. Keep at it, you two. Sasuke and Naruto were about to fall asleep. It was their second night training in the forest together. After the surprise lunch they received from Kakashi, the two kept training throughout the morning and afternoon. Now, as the sun was setting, the two had put enough confidence in their ability to have a race up the tallest trees. As Sasuke ran, she contemplated on what Naruto had told her about his Sharingan the night before, why he kept it from her, how little he knew about it, and his apology to her. He knew that she would have wanted to be informed of his ability, but he couldn't think of a proper way to tell her when they were younger and had just kept it a secret until now. She had accepted it because she accepted him. It only gave her another goal to strive for, to equal his strength and then someday surpass it with her own ability. If she could do that, then maybe she could defeat him too. As soon as she reached the top, she looked to her right to see Naruto standing triumphantly on the very top of his tree. He was smiling at her, giving a thumbs up. One she returned with a smirk. They dropped to the forest floor and, without needing to discuss anything, began to walk off toward Tazuna's home. On the way, their hands became intertwined. Neither did anything to stop it. Sasuke smiled and tightened her grip, not wanting to let go. At the end of the day, their feelings were stronger than that, and that was all that mattered to them. As long as I have her dash, as long as I have him dash, they smiled. I am happy. Konohagakure, Hokage Mansion. Mikoto had gone to the Hokage directly after her encounter with the stalker, and she was content with the reaction from him. Angered by the danger that this person represented to the Uchiha, he had been quick to act on her request for an investigation. Mikoto-san, I am appalled that something like this would happen inside this village. Your safety is a top priority, and this so-called stalker must not be taken lightly. Mikoto agreed and eagerly awaited his verdict. I will dispense an ANBU team to follow you, from a distance, and keep a close eye out for this person. They will arrest them on site and take care of the interrogation necessary. We will find out what their purpose is. Mikoto had been trailed by ANBU teams before. She had never liked the feeling of being watched by their faceless masks. But she could ill afford not to take the protection, not only for herself but for when Sasuke and Naruto returned home. Whoever this was would have to be caught as soon as possible, allowing the Uchiha to move on with their lives. Yes, Hokage-sama. Please deploy your team right away. He nodded and tipped his hat forward. They will be with you by the time you leave this office. Do not worry. They know not to interfere with your business. Just live normally until the culprit has been caught. She nodded, bowed, and took her leave. Hiruzen sighed and turned his chair around to look at the village through his office window. Stalkers, assassins, spies. He let loose some smoke from his pipe in idle thought. When can that family find peace? Haven't they gone through enough?